Here for my usual Tuesday appointment with everyone. We're talking arts and entertainment on this gorgeous day. Boy, spring is in the air. Don't get used to it. It's lovely today, but we know winter is not over yet. Um, we're gonna go jump right into my first guest. I'm super excited to have him on my show today. I know you will all remember him. He's had so many hits. This is John Ondrasik from Five for Fighting. John, how are you?
Ava, how you doing?
Great. Thank you so much for being here. So, Five for Fighting is doing a show here in Rhode Island at the Greenwich Odeum. And I'm really excited for this opportunity to talk to you. Not only are you a Grammy nominated performer, multi platinum artist, singles for days, hit singles for days, but you're just an interesting dude. And I can't wait to talk to you about everything you have going on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So let's jump back to your first hit single, Superman. Um, I love this story because you've been quoted as saying that you were one of these musicians that it took 20 years to become an overnight success. You know, it seemed to everyone else that this single sort of like popped out. Here you are on the scene, big star. But that really wasn't your journey. So, talk to us a little bit about how you got to that point of releasing a number one single.
Yeah, like many songwriters, it was quite the journey. And believe it or not, everybody passed on Superman. And being a singer-songwriter was my childhood dream. And I spent 10 years. I finally got a record deal on EMI Records in the late 90s. That record company closed. This is when my first record came out. So that was my first introduction to the music business. But I kept on swinging, and we had a song called Easy Tonight that was a minor hit at the AAA radio format, but it actually gave us a chance for another single. And I said, well, if this is my last shot, let's try Superman. So believe it or not, we almost didn't even get to Superman. And like many success stories, so many stars had to align for people to hear that song. And even when it went to radio, radio didn't want to play it because at that time, the piano wasn't on the radio. It was grunge. It was Lilith Fair.
Yeah.
It was bands. And they're like, this is strange. And I'm like, remember Billy Joel? Remember Elton John?
Right.
And so Superman kind of was different. And I think that's why people, I think, resonated with it and the message of our kind of unique, innate humanity. And then after that, the career was born.
Well, I think it's very interesting that that happened to you because we hear this story kind of over and over that the B side, per se, becomes the big hit, or the record company wanted to pass on the song, but yet that was the one that broke through. So when the record company and the other people you were contacting were like, nah, on the song, what made you stand by this song and believe in it and say, no, I really feel like this is going to cut through and really impact people?
Well, I'd seen the reaction of people when they heard it. I always tell, young songwriters, play live
Yeah.
because every night you think you wrote Let It Be in your basement, and until you play live, you really don't know what will work. And I'd seen some of the reaction with folks of kind of all ages. And but again, you never know. And I think like any success story, where it's music or business, the arts, so much of it is about perseverance. And that's really what it was with me. There's much better songwriters that never got their chance. And I was just going to go down in flames. Superman came. I was in my early 30s when Superman hit. And that's very old for a
For,
musician.
for artists, yeah. That's
So,
like you're already over with.
yeah, you're done by
Yeah.
then. And so I was really fortunate. And I think kind of the work ethic and perseverance paid off. But nobody could have imagined, a song like taking that meaning for the country. And to this day, I still kind of have a hard time grasping that whole thing.
Right, because the song, even though it was released before 9/11, right? Or it sort of had a
Oh, yeah.
connection with 9/11. People really embraced the song as part of their healing and overcoming this horrible tragedy that happened in our country.
Yeah, Superman was actually kind of a worldwide hit before 9/11. I was
Hmm.
actually in London on 9/11, and I kind of sat in my hotel room and watched the towers go down like everyone else and was in shock and horrified. And it took me a week. You might remember planes were grounded, and it
Yeah.
took me a week to get back to the country. I remember kissing the runway when I landed to be home, and that's what Superman had started to become. as some of the media was playing it in connection with some of our firefighters and the emergency workers and the heroes. And after that, obviously playing the concert for New York kind of put that song in a certain perspective for folks. And I'll always be honored and humbled by the fact that it made a difference for some of our true heroes, the firefighters who went into those buildings.
Yeah, and as a songwriter and creative person, that's really all you can ask for is that your art actually impacts someone and helps them through a challenging time. It's really kind of the ultimate accomplishment.
Well, yeah, the first goal is to be heard, you know, just be heard, and if you're lucky enough to be able to do it for a living, that's a wonderful thing. But sure, my biggest reward has been how the songs Superman, 100 Years, The Riddle have been used to make a difference in people's lives and maybe, shed some light on some causes or some folks who really deserve it in our kind of celebrity culture. And that's been, truly one of the highlights of my career.
Yeah, absolutely. And your career has been so long and rich since that moment. You've continued to have hit singles, tour, and what I love about this is there are lots of connections to your family life. Your wife actually was a person who contributed in your success. She was a music publisher. You started a family. Your daughter was born the same time that Superman was becoming a hit. With all of these connections to your family, how are you able to balance tour life, musician life with family life?
That's a great question. Actually, one of the things I've been doing the last 4 or 5 years is these keynotes that kind of talk about music in comparison to business or life or philanthropy. And one thing I talk about is the great challenge, which I call it, which is balancing your ambitions and your job obligations and your ego with your family, with your own personal happiness. And it's really hard. I got to be honest with you. Early in my career, I wasn't very good at it because, I'd kind of started living my dreams and I had obligations and promotions and I was away from home a lot with 2 little kids. And I was so blessed that my wife, Carla, was a music publisher. She got me my first record deal. So we were kind of in this together from the beginning. And she understood some of the things I had to do, but it was great because we could ride the roller coaster together. And the great thing about having kids too is, whether you have a hit song or a flop, they give you a perspective that is so important for artists, because we live our lives, our self-esteem is so kind of consumed by what we do when it's frankly, not the most important thing. So I've been really blessed to have a great support system from my parents. I still work at my dad's family business, my son, yeah, but again, I think a lot of those themes, filter into my songs. 100 Years really is a post-it note about recognize the moment. The riddle, it's about what's important. Chance is about keep on swinging. So all these songs that I think come out of the same life experiences we are living, and maybe that's my my road to people's kind of mind and why they can relate to some of these songs.
Right. Let's talk about your musical influences a little bit because you have a very varied sort of influence musically. Everything from your mom sort of exposing you to musical theater to Stevie Wonder, Freddie Mercury, those kinds of songwriters like you mentioned, Elton John, kind of piano-based songwriting. How did those influences mold you into the songwriter that you are today?
Well, I'm certainly a child of the 70s. I think the 70s, late 60s is the golden age of songwriting. And Stevie Wonder's Sir Duke was the first record I bought. And certainly the Beatles were a big influence on me. Billy Joel, Elton John. You're right about musical theater. Godspell was on my piano bench. I've had the pleasure of working with Stephen Schwartz on and off. We're actually working on Stephen's actually going to come to the Richmond show and do some songs with me. But I had a lot of influences, and then I kind of got into my rock phase and Zeppelin and The Who and AC/DC. But good songs are good songs, and I go back to Cats in the Cradle and Joni Mitchell and Elton and the prolific nature of those songwriters. And certainly I've tried to emulate them, and you can hear their influences in my music. And I think that's a reason why those songs stand the test of time, and possibly why a few of mine do too.
Absolutely. No, I definitely feel that point, that there is a quality to your songs that are sort of timeless. It's just a timeless sort of good song, which is great. It's really what you want. You can listen to it today the same way you could listen to it 15 years ago. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Awesome.
So I want to talk about this Stephen Schwartz thing. I'm a big musical theater person too. Stephen
Yeah.
Schwartz, of course, Mr. Wicked. I think most people would recognize that. How did that collaboration come about?
Well, Stephen actually reached out for his movie Enchanted. He remember the movie
Oh
Enchanted. That was
yes, yes.
Stephen, and he wanted me to do a song in Enchanted. And unfortunately, I was working on another movie called August Rush, so I couldn't do it. But I sent him a note saying, "Hey, I love you. Godspell's been on my song, my piano bench forever. Corner in the Sky. My
Right.
daughter's seen Wicked 19 times, and if you're ever in LA, I'd love to buy a cup of coffee." And it turns out he was a fan of mine. He's a fan of pop music. And we got together, and the day we got together, we started writing a song called Slice, which was a top 10 AC song. And it was the first, I think, pop hit Stevens had since Day by Day back in the 60s.
Cool. So that was
We've
definitely a
continued to be
win-win.
friends. Yeah, and we've continued to be friends. We're actually working on a project right now for ABC. So we're writing songs together. And he's such a class guy for an icon in the business, and he's at the top of his game, and a true inspiration every time I work with him.
So cool. What an awesome experience. So I want to talk briefly. There's so many different things that you are a part of. I definitely wanted to talk a little bit about your charity work. You started a website called What Kind of World Do You Want? This is sort of like a video based way that people can raise money for charity. I think it's a really cool idea. I'd love to know a little bit more about it.
Yeah, we started back in the day. I saw how my songs can kind of fit very well with various charities and movements, and so we started this video website where people would make a video, pick one of 5 charities, and we'd get some donations. And if your video got 10,000 views, then we donate $10,000 to the charity of your choice. And that worked great until we got somebody who got 3 million views.
I see the
So
problem, yeah.
we had to we had to evaluate that, but it was really good because people could be creative. They could have their own voice. It was fun. They had a choice in the charities they kind of chose, and it was a great kind of lead into the next venture, which was a CD for the Troops project, a project where we made CDs for all the troops for free of the biggest songs ever. And we gave those out around the world to kind of just let them know how we love them. But yeah, over the years, it's been such a kind of honor to tour the world, and whether it's our troops or Augie's Quest, which is an ALS charity, or Autism Speaks. You talk about Superman. That song resonated with so many people that faced such great challenges and continue to face great challenges. And it's kind of allowed me to meet some true heroes. And it's been inspiring for many other songs along the way.
Awesome. And what a great way to use your celebrity and your connections to help out some charities. Definitely really cool. I wanted to talk quickly about, you are definitely like a sports super fan. You're a hockey fan. Obviously, there's the connection with the Five for Fighting name. So I have a couple of questions. Since you are a hockey fan, do you like all types of winter sports? Are you into the Winter Olympics right now?
Well, I am. I'm a skier. I got to say, I'm a little bummed about the hockey in the Olympics because the NHL players didn't go. So it's kind of silly watching, the hockey tournament when the best players in the world are not there.
Right.
But I'll tell you what I am excited about is the women's hockey, because
Yes, we're getting applause in the studio here.
the USA and Canada are by far the 2 most elite teams. They ripped our hearts out in the last Olympics. So the only event I really care about this Olympics is the USA Canada hockey gold medal match. Go girls! We are
Go
cheering for you, USA, USA.
Exactly. I love it. So you're going to be here in Rhode Island on St. Patrick's Day, actually, March 17th. What can we expect with this tour? Is it going to be, we'll get to hear all the hits? Are you going to give us some new stuff? What can we expect at this show?
Well, I'm really excited about this show. I've been through the neck of your neck of the woods a few times, but this is a little different. I'm bringing a string quartet with me.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
a few years ago, I started doing symphony shows, and it was so fun and inspiring for me, and the audiences seemed to like it. We kind of broke that down to a quartet show. So it's basically me at the piano with string quartet with some of the finest New York City genius string players you will ever see. And of course, we'll play the songs you know, but it also allows me to pull songs out of my catalog that I wouldn't necessarily do with the band. Songs like Devil in the Wishing Well and Two Lights. So it's a much more kind of intimate show. It's very storytelling as I talk about the composers I've worked with. I talk about kind of the stories, inspirations behind the songs. It's very family friendly. Bring your kids, bring grandma,
Awesome.
grandpa, college kid, millennial, something for everybody. And I'm really excited to share this quartet with everybody because it's been truly inspiring to me, and I think folks will really enjoy it.
It sounds really, really cool. John, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was really great talking to you. We're excited to have you here in Rhode Island next month.
Thank you, Ava. I'll see you guys in a few weeks.
Absolutely. So stick around. I'm going to take a very quick pause as I set up for my next guest, and we'll be back in a minute. Thanks.